Putting a new motor on a vintage Delta Unisaw leaves you with the conundrum. To cut or not to cut? That is the question. Cutting the cabinet, that is. What I've found is there are two good options. One is making a slight modification to the cabinet itself, removing about an inch of material from the back portion of the oval. And the other, more recently discovered thanks to some suggestions of some viewers, is to modify the junction box on the motor. Both options will be shown in this video. So here we go, working on the first option, to remove some material from the cabinet. I've drawn a line with a Sharpie about an inch of material off the back edge of the oval, and with the angle grinder I'm trying to sort of feather along and match that existing oval as much as possible, and then I'll also remove any burrs with a file and sandpaper as needed. Again, this video is for leasing 2 horsepower single-phase Unisaw replacement motors. These are the modifications you can make, either modifying the cabinet or the junction box to make it fit in a vintage Unisaw. And now on to the other option, where we modify the junction box.
So here we are yet again on another Unisaw with the classic question, to cut or not to cut. So with these old bullet style motors and the oval opening, a new modern leasing motor just bumps the cabinet. If you use a 2 horsepower motor, the junction box is what bumps the cabinet right here. Okay. If you use a 3 horsepower motor, it's longer, or anything above that, and I think it also hits on the lower portion. But the 2 horsepower motor clears here, but just bumps here with the junction box. So, you know, I've done before where I just cut the tiniest bit off here and try to sort of feather it in with the angle grinder to match the oval. Works okay, not noticeable unless you look really close, and then you can see that there's no edge in this section. But so this time what I wanted to try to do is cut the junction box, because it just bumps. So basically I just matched the original line here, cut that with an angle grinder on both sides, and now I'm just going to take it over to the vise and do just a little bend here to essentially, I'll cut this part off with a hole in a minute, just want to make sure I do it right first, and I'll bend this part and put a hole here, and then I think everything will line up properly, hopefully, or maybe I'll just bend here and see if they'll reach. I just need to play with it a little bit. So I'm hoping that by cutting away this little bit and then bending these sides, we can get everything to fit properly, and then it won't bump on the back and I won't have to cut the cabinet. So fingers crossed. So there we have it, not too bad. Try to get a pretty good angle matching the arc of the motor, and then put a little notch here for the screws to reattach it. So we're going to see if it works, if it'll give me enough clearance to not have to cut the cabinet. If so, there's a hack for you. Alright, so there you have it. Some slight modifications to the junction box on this Leeson 2 horsepower motor, and you don't have to cut the cabinet on a classic vintage Delta Unisaw design with the oval opening that used to accommodate a bullet motor. So as you can see here, I just trimmed some of the conduit box, and then now, full range of motion. All the way up. About a ½ inch to spare. Perfect. Gets you the full range of tilt, up and down, every possible combination, all set. Hope this helps. If you're trying to save your cabinet and want to know what motor to use, Leeson 2 horsepower with modifications, the junction box will work. The 3 horsepower and beyond, my fear is it's going to be too long and it's going to hit down here. I've not tested that on one of these, but that would seem to be likely. Hope this helps. If I can do it, you can do it.
So there you have it, 2 possible options for upgrading to a modern motor on a vintage Unisaw, both with minimal impact to the machine itself and keeping that classic look of the oval opening. Hope this helps. Be sure to subscribe, like, and follow on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. If there's anything else I can do, let me know.